Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. David Kelly here, race director of the Great World Race. Today we have a gentleman with us who is the founder of the non-profit 30 for Freedom, which was set up to fight sex trafficking and end modern day slavery. Under his leadership, it has raised over $2.5 million. He resides in St. Paul area of Minnesota. Brent Silkey, you're extremely welcome to the Great World Race podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great, David. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be with you today.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure, Brent. And I know you were saying that it was a little bit cold there in St. Paul this morning, which is probably extremely cold considering the winters that Minnesota do have.
It's pretty cold today. I put all my Antarctica gear on today to go out for the run.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. And I just want to also thank you as well, Brent. You're basically our main content provider over the last 6 months, so it's extremely appreciative. He's been working extremely heavy in the background on creators, videos, and everything like that. So I'm presuming it's yourself and probably your cameraman. Is it Ben Hedgie? Has been helping you out. So I seriously appreciate for all the content you're sending us over. Keep it coming.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Ben Hedgie's awesome. And we love to be able to help spread the word and what we're doing and why we're doing it. So appreciate you.
Fantastic. So Brent, we just get started there. You reside in Minnesota and you were born in Korea and you moved to the US at a very young age. Can you just kind of give us a background on that, on your younger things, schooling, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So my origin story, David, it starts out kind of sad. There were in the mid 80s in South Korea. It's a very honor-based culture. My biological mother was a teenager, and she actually was from an impoverished family and had to drop out of school in our equivalent of like 8th grade to clean homes to help make ends meet for her family. And she found out she was pregnant, and she decided, she had to make some pretty big decisions here as a young kid. She went full term with her pregnancy, which I'm really thankful she did that. And then she came to make a decision where she's like, I can't take care of hardly myself. How could I take care of a baby? So she had to make the impossible decision as a 17-year-old girl to give me the opportunity for a different kind of life. And so I think that's very courageous. I would love to someday meet her and say thank you and just to say shame off of you. You know what I mean? Because she made an amazing decision as a young lady. And so that opened up an opportunity for me as a young kid to be adopted. And on the other side of the world, there was a couple who had gotten married. They actually had lost a baby in an ectopic pregnancy. And they had talked about, hey, my mom said, hey, what do you think about adoption? And my dad said, yeah, that'd be great. And so the crazy story is that 30 years earlier, when she was a 10-year-old girl, she was looking at a National Geographic magazine, David. She got done looking at it. She flipped to the cover, and on the cover, there were 2 South Korean little boys. And as a 10-year-old girl, she felt like God put a dream in her heart to one day have children like that. So on September 5th, 1986.
This is your mom. This is your mom in Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, Carol Silkey. My mom and dad came to the airport, and I went from being an illegitimate, abandoned orphan, which was my legal status, my orphan status, were illegitimate and abandoned. They carried me off the plane and they put me in the arms of my mom and dad, Doug and Carol Silkey. And I went from being an illegitimate, abandoned orphan to being a Silkey, to being beloved, to being in a family. And a year later, my brother Adam was adopted from South Korea. So that vision from when she was 10 years old came to full fruition when she was 41 years old. And she had these two little South Korean boys. So that's the start of our story as a family. I'm thankful every single day for my folks. And story of adoption. It's changed my life.
That's a fantastic story. It's very, very heartfelt now, I have to say. And so your mom is Carol and your dad's name is?
Doug.
So they were you moved directly to Minnesota. Is that correct? From South Korea?
Yep. Right from South Korea, from Seoul, right to Burnsville, Minnesota.
Brilliant. And have you been back? Have you been back to Korea since?
I haven't been back. I would love to. It's definitely on my list of things I'd love to do someday. I've done a little bit of biological family research and searching, trying to connect. And they said, my social worker said, basically, your next step is to go back to South Korea and to do some more work there to try to connect if it's possible. So, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's also on my list. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Definitely it's one I would like to see myself. And so, Brent, yourself and your brother living in Minnesota, what was it like growing up in Minnesota? As I was saying there, we had 2 runners, Ellen Hunter-Gans and her sister-in-law, Sarah Hunter, last year on the event. And as a joke with them, you're probably basically, Antarctica would be nice and warm relative to the winters in Minnesota. So can you tell us a bit about maybe how you grew up in Minnesota, schooling, college? Were you into athletics? Was it running you were into? Was it other sports you were into, etc.?
Yeah, no, it was great. Looking back at my childhood, I feel so thankful, David. My parents were amazing. They were the kind of parents who would support us fully, no matter what we wanted to do. My brother was really into the arts and theater and, band, choir, all of that. I was really into sports, football, baseball, basketball, track, and I just loved training. I found that I actually sometimes loved the training for the sport more than the actual sports that I played. And so once I got to college, I was really into weightlifting, and I was lifting really, really heavy weights, and I kept having recurring shoulder injuries. And I decided, if I keep along this path, I'm gonna have some issues for the rest of my life, and I don't really want those kind of issues. So I decided to switch away from the heavy lifting, and I started getting into the marathon side of things. So I'd never run a 5K, never run a 10K before, a half marathon, but I signed up for 2 marathons as a 24-year-old kid: Grandma's Marathon and Twin Cities Marathon 2010. So I ran the 2010 Grandma's Marathon, life-changing experience to be a part of that. And then I ran the Twin Cities Marathon later that year, and I was hooked. So I've been doing marathons ever since. Minnesota provides a really interesting gamut of climates. So we have like the very, very sub-zero temperatures in the winter, and ice and wind and all of that kind of stuff. We get a little bit of mild craziness in the fall and in the spring, but our summers get hot. We're talking like, we can get in the 90s, sometimes over 100, but then the humidity can be in the 90s as well. So it's good
I'm
for,
getting sunburnt already. This Irish pale skin is getting sunburnt already,
yeah,
Brent. I can
yeah,
I can feel it already. Yeah,
it's awesome.
it's so obviously you're into sport, and my understanding is that is somewhat how the 30 for Freedom ended up being set up. I think it was, from what I read, is on your 30th birthday you decided to run 30 miles with 30 of your friends to raise $30,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So in college, I heard about the issue of sex trafficking, and I was devastated to hear what takes place. I was devastated to learn that every 30 seconds, someone becomes a victim of sex trafficking. I couldn't put my mind around that statistic. I also learned that the average age of a trafficking victim was between 12 and 13 years old. And I just was like, something has to be done about this. So right before I turned 30, I felt like God just put this dream in my heart, that to run 30 miles on my 30th birthday, invite 30 friends to run with me so we could raise 30,000, because every 30 seconds someone becomes a victim. So we put that all together. So I started calling people, texting people, direct messaging people, just saying, hey, would you come and run with me on Saturday, May 28th, 2016, my 30th birthday? Come run 30 miles with me. And every person said the same answer. They were like, no. Like, how far is 30 miles? Like, how far is a marathon, Brent? And I'm like, well, 26 miles, 385 yards. They're like, you want to run longer than that on your 30th birthday? Why would we do that? And then I would pivot and tell them that every 30 seconds, someone becomes a victim of sex trafficking, and it would go silent on the phone. And then I would share that the average age is 12 to 13. It would continue to be silent. And within a few days, most of the people that I had reached out to said, I hate to run, but I hate sex trafficking more. I'll be there. So I wasn't sure who would all show up on that 30th birthday, David. We had 48 people that showed up to run 30 miles, and we had 75 that came to do a 5K for freedom. So we had 123 people that showed up. And by the time we totaled all the funds that came in that day, we were blown away. Our goal was 30,000. $81,346 came in. And that they actually, the local news, KSTP Channel 5 local news, came and did an interview at mile 14. And the awareness of what we were doing and why we were doing it went out across the Twin Cities that evening. So that next week, my phone just kept going off, because people were like, hey, I can't wait to bring my cross country team, my track team, my church, my youth group, my neighbors, my coworkers to the run next year. And I was honestly thinking, like, what do you mean next year? Like, we did this run, but the next year we had 400 people come. And after that, we decided that we need to, put a board together. We need to make this an official organization. And over the last 9 years, we've seen just some pretty crazy things. Over 15,000 people have run for freedom, raising over $2.5 million. And our goal in 2025, in conjunction with what we're doing with Great World Race, is to raise $1 million for freedom this year.
It's an unbelievable story. It's definitely a story that if you build it, they will come. Just get something started, and the world can be your oyster. It's an unbelievable story. And I know probably it was 48 people or 48 people came to run the 50 miles.
Yeah,
So basically you're saying is you have 47 less friends now.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
they might have been happy to do, but they're no longer friends with you.
yeah.
And Just the 30 miles, was this after your initial marathons in your initial 2 marathons in the Twin Cities and Grandmas?
Yeah, this would have been about 6 years in my long distance running career.
Brilliant. And from that, the charity, I presume, was set up off the back of that. Is that
Yep.
it's and so so you do the 30-30, obviously a huge thing. You set up the charity. Okay, obviously that has its own headaches as well. And just off camera, we were talking that you have 17 races on top of your main 30 miler every year. Can you go through how that built out over the last 10 years and what the initial goal was and how it sounds like it's superseded and hopefully it's going to go from strength to strength as well in the next 12 months?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So we would have people coming from they would be driving 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to the Twin Cities. And eventually they would just say, hey, I think I can get a lot of people in my city or my town or my part of the country to run for freedom. Like, we want to take this back to where we started, or back to where we came from. And so our team said, yeah, we'd love for you to do that. So all of a sudden we went from one location in the Twin Cities to then we had one in central Minnesota, northern Minnesota, southern Minnesota, eastern Minnesota. And then we would have, then we went from one location to 5 locations. And then people in Iowa said, well, could we do one in Iowa? Could we do one in Wisconsin? Could we do one in another part of Wisconsin? And so it just continued to cascade and grow. And as people, you can sign up for a race and do a race anytime you want to, basically anytime a year, but like to do it for a purpose. And the thing that I think is unique, David, about 30 for Freedom is that, yes, we have 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, 30-mile runs. We've had, 100Ks, all that 100 milers. But what we do with the funds is 100% of every single donation we give directly to the cause on the front lines, doing trafficking prevention, rescue operations, and survivor care. And we don't take a cut from that. We give literally 100% directly to the cause. So people know when they're a part of a 30 for Freedom event that they're a part of an endurance event or endurance challenge. And then when they raise funds alongside of their event, that 100% of that is making a difference for victims and survivors of trafficking.
Yeah, no, it's an unbelievable cause, a great sentiment. And Brent, just wondering, how do you decide, country wise? Obviously, there's different countries that are significantly worse than others, and there's probably some countries that that I probably don't think are bad, that are really bad for sex trafficking. How do you decide that? And have you been out on, I suppose, some of the front lines and seen the cases out there?
Yeah, great question. So the 3 organizations we support are Venture, Project Rescue, and Free International. Free International is based domestically in the United States. So they're setting people free from trafficking right here in the States. And when a lot of people hear that there's trafficking in the States, they're like, well, what do you mean? Isn't that a problem that happens in developing nations? And I
Yeah,
always want to
absolutely.
help.
That's what everyone thinks. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to help educate them, saying, yes, it does happen in developing nations, but it happens right here as well. And so a lot of the rescue stories and a lot of the things that we hear that come out of the United States, that come from Las Vegas, that come from different parts of even Minnesota, Chicago. When they hear about that, they're like, well, I'm from that area. And I'm like, I know it's literally happening here, and we have to be aware of it. So Venture and Project Rescue are global partners, and so there's a ton of countries. I wouldn't want to start listing them and miss any.
No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
But they're doing amazing work. And so those are the 3 organizations that our board has landed on as, these are the 3 organizations that are doing the trafficking prevention, the rescue, and the survivor care. And they're helping to coordinate with the entities that exist within their network to provide the best kind of structure for and care for survivors. And so they're global. And so we have definitely a reach that would span to every continent except for Antarctica. And then a lot of the stateside things that we hear are they're pretty wild. So we have a lot of work cut out for us, but that's why we get up in the morning.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I suppose, the best laid goals always end up pretty difficult to attain. So, congratulations, and unbelievable work. And I just would is it in, say, the case of US, because, I'm from Ireland, basically, Western world, you just assume we live a very privileged life, no matter, we might have bad days or there might be some things going wrong, but it's extremely privileged we live. Are these, is this sex trafficking going on internally, or is it people from externally being brought into the US, or both?
It's unfortunately it's a both and. So there's a lot of people who are vulnerable. So people who are immigrating from different countries who don't necessarily have a good grasp yet on the English language, and sometimes it can be taken advantage of by people that will target them. Sometimes it's kids who are having a really hard time at home, or they're in foster care and they run away. And it's the statistics are staggering at how quickly somebody who is running away from home or running away from a foster care home are approached by a trafficker within the first 72 hours of them being being on their own. It's wild. And so, yeah, it's definitely a both and. And I think one thing that just for people to know, it's trafficking situations look different in different contexts. There's so much nuance, right? So like if a kid was taken or stolen out of a suburban Twin Cities neighborhood, like there would be all kinds of code atoms, there'd be all kinds of police things, there'd be reports everywhere. And so it's more insidious in terms of like using social media and like kind of hooking people on certain things. And I don't want to, get too deep into the weeds there,
No, no.
but it definitely is something that happens. And I'll just say this, David, there was a young lady from the high school that I went to who was about 2 years behind me in school. And she reached out to me one day and she said, "Hey, Brian, I just want you to know the work that you do with 30 for Freedom is so valuable and it's so important." She said, "You may not know this about me, but I was actually trafficked in college." And I was just thinking like, oh my goodness, like we went to the same high school. We're from the same area, And so to know that it even happens in suburban Minnesota,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, is kind of wild.
Yeah, no, I suppose, yeah, people have the opportunity to get a very parasitic world from people, I suppose, preying on, maybe weaker forms of society. Unbelievable, but unbelievably good work. But this, on a more positive note, obviously, you're joining us on the Great World Race. You're joining us with four colleagues, Ellie, Jackie, Paul, and Ben is going to be doing all the production. How's everything going? Are you all training together? I know you're doing plenty of miles in the mornings. Are you all training together? Do you meet up pretty regularly, or how is it? How does it work out there?
So with Jacky coming from Arizona, Ben actually was in Minnesota. Now is in the Beaverton, Oregon area.
All right.
He actually works for Nike Strength, and then the rest of us kind of scattered throughout Minnesota here. We haven't trained together at all, but it's been fun to jump on some meetings and just introduce everybody and like just remind us like, hey, this is the reason we're doing this. It's one of the most crazy epic things in the whole world that we've ever heard of, the Great World Race. And so for us to be able to know like, hey, when we're putting in the miles we're training and we're trying to hone in on the nutrition or on recovery, on whatever it might be, that we're doing it not just for for the sake of a finisher medal, but we're doing it for the sake of truly somebody's freedom. So it's been really cool to have a team of 5 of us to be able to do that. And I'm really grateful for our sponsors who are helping us, even like get to, the starting line as we, get ready to go in Antarctica here in November. And so, yeah, we're grateful, and it's been fun to connect a little bit here and there with the team.
No, it's great. And Paul is part of Venture, one of the bigger organizations you work with, I understand.
Yep. Yeah. Paul's the executive director of Venture. Paul's actually somebody who's been a huge mentor to both myself and my wife for my wife, 20 years, for me, 19 years. And so to be able to have him come along and do this it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? So if I think of like all the people I know who love to run and who could be a part of something like this, Paul Hurckman's on the very top of that list of like, wow, I can't believe Paul's coming along and wanting to do this as well. So
That's great. So you talked him into it, Brent.
well, we were talking about it, and he goes, buddy, I've always wanted to do that, right? And I was like, Paul, I actually never knew you wanted to do that, because Paul will tell you, David, he'll tell you he hates to run. He hates run, like truly doesn't like it. He's like, I've never once had a runner's high. I've never once like loved doing it. He's like, but I will move from comfortable to less comfortable on behalf of the vulnerable and the oppressed. And so he's all in, and I'm really excited to have Paul along on the Great World Race for Freedom.
Yeah, but it's funny, like with sometimes, running to attain something. There was a great, one of the greatest milers of all time, John Walker, New Zealand runner, won Olympic champion. He was Olympic champion. He was world record holder in a mile. And like, I remember, I think someone said to him, John, you must love to run. And he goes, I actually don't particularly like running. He goes, but I love winning. And he
Oh,
goes, that's what just drives. I know it's slightly different from Paul's sentiment there, but he just goes, yeah, I just love the feeling of winning. And he goes, for me, the sacrifice is worth it. Like, so everyone has their own goals to get across the line. Like, and do you plan, obviously, okay, you're training separately. Are you all similar fitness levels? Do you plan and run together? Or once the gun goes, is there going to be elbows thrown and everyone's trying to get out ahead of everyone else?
that's a good question. I would say we're probably at different levels. Jacky, what she is able to do is just, it's so far beyond a normal human being. You know what I mean? To be able to run 104 marathons in 104 days, or a 300-mile unsupported run from Los Angeles to Las Vegas through the desert. So she'll probably leave us all in the dust, but she's pretty remarkable. So yeah, it'll be fun though. I think we're definitely all, we're of one heart and one mind doing this for the same cause, and it'll be fun. I know it sounds like most of the courses are loops, so to be
They
able
are, yeah, that is correct.
to see each
It
other and
just
high
makes
five
your
each
life a
other.
bit easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just just to let everyone know, we'll have Jacky on the podcast in a couple of weeks' time. Jacky is a below knee amputee. Is there above? I'm not sure.
I believe below.
Below, I think. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, but we're going to have her on. So like all these runs are made even more impressive by that fact as well. But so we're going to definitely catch up with her as well. So on your own training, how does your training week look like? How's the build up going? Obviously, we're a couple of months out, and what is the plan going forward, like races, etc.
Yep. So I have an amazing coach, Jeremy Collier, who's helping me putting all the plans together on Training Peaks. So he's taking the mental load really off my plate. So I just look at my watch, do whatever it says that day. We're in phase 2 of 5 phases right now, the tempo phase. I did my 30 for freedom, my 50K about 2 weeks ago. And so it was great to test out the fitness level there. I was my fastest 50K of my life, I guess. So I was like, wow, Coach Jeremy is doing a great job, and I'm thankful for his help and insights. I also have a great chiropractor, Dr. David Roatman, and massage therapist, Tara Childers. So I've got a great team of people kind of helping me in recovery, helping me with my training plan. Grandma's Marathon is coming up. And so we have 205 of us are going to be running at Grandma's Marathon weekend for 30 for Freedom. So we were the largest charity team in 2024 with 109 runners. And in 2025, we've got 205 runners. So it'll be fun to run, at one of the big top 10 marathons in the country for freedom together. And so we'll be able to share a little bit there as well. And then I don't have any other races scheduled for the summer, but I will be at some different camps where we're probably going to have, we've typically had about 1,000 students run per camp with us for freedom. And so looking forward to that. And then into October, we have a massive event with about 4,600 students. We're going to share about the Great World Race. We actually have 20 minutes of stage time to share about the Great World Race at Minnesota Youth Convention. And we're going to invite, David, students, 1,000 students from that group to run with us, like from Minnesota, and to each raise $1,000 over a 4-week period, so that we could raise, that group could then raise $1 million for freedom in 4 weeks. So
Brilliant
we have a
idea.
lot of things coming up there, but we're really excited about Great World Race and think about it every single day, pray about it every day. So looking forward to meeting you in person too.
No, I look forward to it. And I just have to say, go back to this training. What type of volume mileage are you doing at the moment? And is that going to stay the same?
Currently, it's we're trying to right now basically just build up my VO2 max and just kind of just with some, we had the all the interval training at first, which, oh my goodness gracious, that's I'm not as young as I used to be. And then
The
now we're in
misery, the real pain is there. The slower stuff isn't as bad. It's the real misery of the
yeah,
short, fast stuff.
no doubt. And now we're in tempo, and then we'll get into some more endurance stuff this summer. The mileage is going to increase a lot this summer, but I feel really, really good and really thankful with where we're at currently. And so, we'll get into some pretty big weeks. And I know that you had mentioned like the back to back to back, stacking those together and to see how the body recovers, see how it feels, and to be able to be prepared for 60 hours of flights, 183.4 miles of running, plus airports, right, coming up in November.
No, absolutely. It's no, it is very slow steps as well. Like, plenty of time left. No need to overdo it. The back to back runs will benefit going forward as well. But like loads of time. Fueling point of view, Brent, historically, what is your fueling like in marathons? Because generally on these conversations, we talk to a lot of ultra runners or multi-stage racer cyclists, and generally runners are kind of more gels and fluids. But I've had people on like that have talked to like eat red velvet cake and races and stuff like that. Is there anything? And I learn something new every time. So are you fluid gels, or is there something exciting out there that you can tell all the listeners out there?
Yeah, man, I guess I'm going to be outed here on this. So for hydration, I do Noon hydration. That's my go-to thing. I've run my PR with Noon. I've run, I did my Ironman with Noon. It's just been really, really worked really well for me. For my, oh yeah, here you go. This is from my, I had like several bags of this. This is cinnamon toast crunch cereal, not healthful at all. But had that on my 50K, and I just kept coming back to it. And when I would feel like low, I'd have my Noon and have my little bag of cinnamon toast crunch. So that helped me have a 50K PR, 2 weeks ago. And so it's not dietitian approved at all, but it's something that works for me. I'll never forget my first like ultra marathon being at a 50 miler. they had tables full of all kinds of different like actual food, and they had Nutella on bananas, and I was like, I kind of dig this ultra marathon vibe. Like, you know what I mean? Like just having whatever you can stomach, whatever, like, you know, you can keep down for the duration of your race. So I'm probably more of a solid foods guy than, than like the gels and that kind of thing. So yeah, but I sounds like you've heard a lot of things from a lot of different people.
Yeah, it's funny because we had a guy gentleman last year, Andrew Thorpe. He done like he done the 777 with us last year, but he also done 6 marathons across the 6 provinces in Australia over 6 days. And he was saying, like, you're running around, he says, fine, but then like he said, he was just eating butter sandwiches and Marmite sandwiches, and he said just he was so hungry, anything that you could get into in
Yeah,
calorie wise, it kind of all goes out because you always have best laid plans. We're going to have this at mile 5, this at mile 10. But it's funny with the cinnamon crunch there. Once the hunger takes over in ultra races, anything that you can take in that your stomach can handle, just consume it.
that's right. That's exactly right.
And just to finish off there, Brent, you're a pastor as well in Minnesota.
Yep. Yep.
Was that? Did you become a pastor alongside setting up the charity, or was it different timings?
Yeah, my plan coming out of high school was to go to college and to become both a teacher. I wanted to actually go into teaching physical education for special needs students, and also to be a coach. I wanted to coach all the sports that I played. And so in my very first year of college, I had some friends who they had invited me to their church like since 8th grade all the way through college. And so I finally said yes to go with them to their church. And I had a life-changing experience as a freshman in college, where I heard about the love of Jesus in a way that hit so close to home that I just surrendered my life to him. And I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll be who you want me to be, but I want to follow you. And so a year later, we had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica on a mission trip. I'd never been out of the country really for anything. And we go on this trip, and they had me share my story of being adopted, which I shared earlier on the podcast, and how, I was adopted into this family, and how we can be adopted into God's family through Christ. And that trip totally changed everything for me and the trajectory of my life, because I felt called to be a pastor on that trip. So I came back, and that fall, I changed where I was going to college to go become a pastor. And I got to serve at my church for 6 years as the high school pastor. And then 10 years ago, I felt like I was supposed to go and start a ministry at the University of St. Thomas, where we've been for the last 10 years. And so it's been a journey just following the Lord, but I'm thankful. I'm really thankful for every day.
There's been multiple journeys there. But listen, Brent, it was absolutely great to talk to you. And I just want to finish with one quote that I took off at the website, the 30 for Freedom website. Your vision is to have every person in the world live in freedom. So
That's right.
I think it's an absolute outstanding quote, and a great sentiment. And if everyone could live like that, it would be fantastic. And listen, it's an absolute pleasure having you on. Looking forward to meeting in person. We might get to catch up even before the Great World Race, and looking forward to all the crew coming with you as well, Brent.
That's going to be awesome, David. Thanks so much. And we can't wait to run around the world with you.
Brent, my pleasure. Look forward to seeing you.